Hello, everybody. It's me, your boy, Oliver. Who? What's up? Hey, anybody here yet? Wait a minute. It's gonna see someone comes up real quick. No one does. We'll just get started. When's that Discord notification gonna go? I think it took about like 15 minutes last time. Might just sit around a bit. Oh, hey Jesse. Glad to see you. You meet. It's right now. I think we're good. It's really weird and dumb and lame, but hey, great to see you. You're not dumb or lame. You're pretty cool. So, yeah. How has everybody been? Been alright? I mean, yeah, it's alright. Could be worse. Yeah, I think what I should start with. By the way, while I'm reading, I'm gonna try not interacting with chat too much. Get through the book. I will be taking periodic breaks where I'll be like reading chat, just hanging out, and also letting my voice rest a bit. So I'll probably also have like a straight up BRB at one point in the middle of this. This is this kind of long. It shouldn't be that long, but it's a pretty long piece. I'll be quiet during this. That's okay. On Twitter. Discord. Sorry, I'm kind of stalling, but I just want to wait till get before we get started because I really want. The main reason I'm doing this is I want to share it with you guys. I love this book. I think it is great. One yesterday, yeah, I noticed. It's probably gonna be another like fucking 10 minute. Patience. We'll have patience. Yeah, I think this book is really funny. It's not trying to be, but I think it's really funny. Music? I was gonna start the music when I started the reading. I can start it now if you'd like. It's just kind of just copyright free fantasy play. By the way, it's it didn't be that much long. Just a few minutes. Probably could have waited till I actually started up this. I wanted to be here. Sorry for the VOD watchers. Just skip ahead to get there. Anyone else I could talk about? I'm not sure when we get back to the Nuzlocke. I'm gonna take a little break from that. The last one killed me. Hey, Spooky Monkey, welcome. Been a while. Glad to see you made it. Okay, let's get into it. So, first, let me start by taking you back to an ancient time. Long, long ago, the 1970s. A 16 or 17-year-old lad named Jim Theus decided he wanted to write his magnum opus. A tale about a barbarian known as Grignir. He was inspired by Conan the Barbarian. His English teachers clearly fucked him up really bad. Oh boy, this book. It's seriously like if you took a thesaurus. Just only use that for every word. I love it. Originally, this circled at comic book conventions, which comic books were a thing that people used to read before the internet, and it had a bunch of pictures, believe it or not. And then conventions were a thing that people would go to talk about fandoms they're in before the pandemic. So those both might seem like those are both ancient terms, but you know, that's how it started. And then later, it once the internet became a thing, it started spreading around the internet, and it's quite recently gotten a little bit more attention. I don't know anything about Jim Theus, honestly. All I know is that he was young, and that I blame his English teachers, really. Either way, we're gonna get into it. Let's see. So excited. Man, it's taking a while. I'm trying to stall, damn it. Ah, whatever. I don't have to be funny. The book is. Didn't get in any trouble for this. I mean, I've seen other people do it. Read this book on Twitch streams before, and they haven't gotten any trouble for it. So we've had it was before the whole DMCA thing went nuts, but I think we'll be fine. But yeah, we're also going through the entire thing this stream. Should take a few hours. It's not that long. It's not like it's not like a Harry Potter book or anything. It's pretty short. It's only 7.5 chapters. There's also a lost ending. Okay. Look at what ancient tome, the 70s. I wonder if I could. Oh yeah, that's perfect. It really does look like it. Can I go? Oh no, Jesse. Jesse just got tired of waiting. Thank you, Jesse. All that. It's perfect. I love it. Okay. How do the pictures look? Oh, yep. They look just bad. Okay. Nope. Let us begin this tale. Grignir. Eye of Argon. Weather-beaten trail wound ahead into the dust-cracked climes of the barren land which dominates large portions of the Mongolian Empire. Age-worn hoofprints, smothered by the shifting sands of time, roar dully against the dull-splattered crust of earth. The tireless sun casts its parching rays of incandescent from overheat. The tireless sun casts its parching rays of incandescence from overheat halfway through its daily revolution. Oh god, this is gonna be hard. Oh yeah, good luck on your exam. The tireless sun casts its parching rays of incandescence from overhead halfway through its daily revolution. Small rodents scampered about, occupying themselves in the daily accomplishments of the dismal lives. Got it. Okay. Was that small rodents scampering about, occupying themselves in the daily accomplishments of their dismal lives? Dust sprang over 3 heaving mounds and blinding clouds, where they bore and render some cargoes of their struggling overseers. Perhaps to embrace your creators in the Stygian halts of hell, barbarian, gasped the first soldier. Only after you have kissed the fleeting seat of death, wretch, returned Grignir. Sweeping blade of flashing steel riveted from the massive barbarian's hide enameled shield as his rippling right arm thrusts forth, sending a steel shot blade into the hilt. A steel shot blade to the hilt into the soldier's vital organs. The disemboweled mercenary crumpled upon his saddle and sank to the shrouded swak, sprinkling the parched dust with crimson droplets of escaping life fluid. Oh, oy, oy. The disemboweled. Oh man. Hey, Megalus, man. What's up? Great to see you. Music is a little loud? Okay. Okay. Oh, that's better. Oh, okay, I gotta read that again. The disemboweled mercenary crumpled from his saddle and sank to the clouded sward, sprinkling of parched dust with crimson droplets of escaping life fluid. The thrusted barbarian swiveled about, his shock of fiery red hair tossed robustly in the humid air currents as he faced the attack of the defeated soldier's fellow in arms. "Damn you, barbarian!" shrieked the soldier as he observed his comrade in death. Yeah, it's great to see you. It really has been a while. Gleaming scimitar smote a heavy blow against the renegade's spiked helmet, bringing a heavy cloud over the accordion's misting brain, shaking off the efforts of the pounding blood of his head. Grignard brought down his scarlet-streaked edge against the soldier's crudely forged hauberk. Clanging harmlessly to the left side of his opponent, the soldier's steed whinnied as he directed the horse back from the driving blade of the barbarian. Grignard leashed his mount forward as the hoarsely piercing battle cry of his wilderness-bred race resounded from his grinding lungs. What the fuck does that mean? He released them out forward as the hoarsely pierced battle cry of his wilderness-bred race resounded from his grinding lungs. So he gave a war cry. He went, ah! Oh, yeah. The twirling blade bounced harmlessly off the mighty thief's buckler as his rolling right arm cleft upward, sending a foot of blinding steel rippling through the Cimmerian's exposed gullet, a gasping girdle from the soldier's writhing mouth as he tumbled to the golden sand at his feet, the worm agonizing in his deathbed. Grignard's emerald green orbs glared lustfully at the wallowing soldier struggling before his chestnut swirled mouth. Oh god. Oh, goodbye. I'm glad you can stop by even for a little bit. It means a lot. I hope you have a good time with whatever's going on. Hopefully I won't be killed by this book. I'll try my best. Grignard's emerald green orbs glared lustfully, mind you, at the wallowing soldier struggling before his chestnut swirled mount. His snarling voice reverberated over the dying form in a tone of mocking mirth. "You city-bred dog should learn better not to antagonize your better." Reining his wary mount ahead, Grignard resumed his journey to the Nogolian city of Gorzam, whatever. Journey, hoping to discover wine, woman, and adventures to boil the wild blood coursing through his savage veins. The trek to Gorzam was forced upon Grignard when the soldiers of Kryn were lashed upon him by a faithless concubine he had wooed. His scandalous activities throughout the Cimmerian city had unleashed throngs of havoc and uproar amongst its refined partisans, leading them to attack every reward over his head. Faithless concubine. Okay. He had barely managed to escape through the back entrance of the inn he had been guzzling in, as a squad of soldiers touched upon him, spilling a spout of blood from the leader of the mercenaries as he dismembered one of the officer's arms. He retreated to his mount to make his way towards Gorzam, rumoring to contain hordes of plunder, and many young wrenches for any man with a backbone to wrest them away. Jesus. Oh. Rising after dust in Gorzom, Grignir descended down a dismal alley, reining his horse between a beaten tavern. The red-haired giant strode into the dismally lit hostelry, reeking of foul orders and cheap wine. The air was heavy with choking fumes spewing from smoldering torches encased within the dense earthen-packed walls. Tables were clustered in groups of drunken thieves and cutthroats tossing dice or making love to willing prostitutes. Eyeing a slender female crouched alone on a nearby bench, Grignir advanced, wishing to wholesomely occupy his time. Flickering torches cast weird shifts of luminescence dancing over the half-naked harlot of his choice. Jeez. His stringly orchard twines of hair swaying gracefully over the make nose. As she raced a half-train. Fuck. Oh. Oh yeah. Just doesn't stop. You try to power through it, but it doesn't stop. The flickering torches cast weird shifts of luminescent dancing over the half-naked harlot of his choice. Stringly ornamented twines of hair swaying gracefully over the little opaque nose as she raised a half-drained mug to her pale red lips. Glancing upwards, the alluring complexion noted the stalwart giant as he rapidly approached. A faint glimmer sparked from a pair of deep blue ovals of the armor's feet. He just can't say the word eyes. He just can't use the word eyes, I guess. Glancing upward, the alluring complexion noted that the stalwart giant as he rapidly approached. Faint glimmer sparked from the pair of deep blue ovals of the amorous female as she motioned towards Grignir, enticing him to join her. The barbarian seated himself upon a stool at the wench's side, exposing his body, naked save for a loincloth, brandishing a long steel broadsword, an iron spiraled battle helmet, and a thick leather sandals to her obstructed view. Thou hast need to occupy your time, barbarian? Questioned the fiend. Okay, hold on. This one's good. Thou hast need to occupy the time, barbarian? Questioned the female? Female. Female. It's good. Question the female? Only if something worth authoring is within my reach, stated Grignir as his hands crept to embrace the tempting female, who welcomed them with open willingness. Where do you come, barbarian? And by what are you called? Gasped the complying wench, as Grignir smothered her lips with the blazing torch of his flaming mouth. Oh, okay. The engrossed titan ignored the queries of the inquisitive female, pulling her towards him and crushing her sagging nipples to his ear. Pulling her towards him and crushing her sagging nipples to his yearning chest. With a struggle, she gave in, winding her soft arms around the harshly bronzed hide of Grignir, or her shoulder blades, as his calloused hands caressed her firm, protruding bust. Okay. One more time. We're gonna read that one more time. The engrossed titan ignored the queries of the inquisitive female, pulling her towards him and crushing her sagging nipples to his yearning chest. Without struggle, she gave in, winding her soft arms around his harshly bronzed hide of Grignier's corded shoulder blades as his calloused hands caressed her firm, protruding bust. You make love well. You make love well, wench, admitted Grignir as he reached for the vessel of potent wine his charge had been quaffing. The flying foot caught the mug Grignir had taken hold of, sensing its blood-red contents swishing over a flickering crescent. Leashing tongues of bright orange flame to the foot-trodden floor. What? A flying foot caught the mug Grignir had taken a hold of, sending its blood-red contents sloshing over a flickering crescent, leashing tongues of bright orange flame to the foot-trodden floor. Ah, fuck me, I guess. I guess the mug got kicked out of his hand. This could all just say, and then someone kicked the mug out of his, and then someone kicked the mug he was holding. Remove yourself, Sarah. The wench belongs to me, blabbered a drunken soldier, too far consumed by the influences of his burial brew to take note of the superior size of his adversary. Grignir lithely bound from the startled female. His face lit up to an ashen red ferocity. His eyes locked in a searing pharaoh blaze towards the swaying soldier. To hell with you, braggart! Bellowed the angered accordion as he hefted his finely honed broadsword. Staggering soldier clumsily reached towards the pommel of his dangling sword. Before his hands ever touched the oaken hilt, silver flash was slicing the heavy air. The thews of the savage's lashing right arm bulged from the glistening bronze hide as his blade bit deeply into the soldier's neck, lopping off the confused head of his senseless tormentor. With a nauseating thud, the severed oval toppled to the floor as the segregated torso of Grignir's bovine antagonist swayed. What? Wait, what? With a nauseating thud, the severed oval topped to the floor as the segregated torso of Grignir's bovine antagonist swayed, then collapsed in a pool of swirled crimson. Fuck me. Fuck me. Put this on my grave. In the confusion, the soldiers confronted Grignir with unsheathed cutlasses, directed towards the latter's scowling makeup. The slut should have picked his quarry more carefully. They're talking about Grignir, right? The slut should have picked his quarry more carefully, roared the victor in a mocking baritone growl as he wiped his dripping blade from the prostitute's form and turned it to its scabbard. The slut should have picked... The fool should have shown more prudence, though he should have ruined your actions while rotting in the pits, stated one of the sprawled soldier's comrades. Grignir's hands began to remove his blade from its leather housing. But retarded the motion and face of the blades waving before his face? I've never heard that word used in that way. I'm starting to think that that's just a spelling error. Maybe he meant retreated and then he just fucked up. But like that doesn't make sense. This is way before. This is way before like spell correct was a thing. This is the 70s. This is 1970. Whatever. Dismiss your hand from the hill, barbarian, or you shall find a foot of steel sheath in your gizzard. Grignir weighed his position, observing his plight, whereupon he took the soldier's advice as the only logical choice. Attempt to hack his way through the present predicament would only warrant certain death. He was of no mind to bring upon his own demise if an alternative path presented itself. The will to necessitate his life forced him to yield to his superior forces in hopes of a moment of carelessness later upon the part of his captors in which he could effort a more plausible means of escape. Okay, so for those of you who speak English, what he just said is Grignir is going to go with them for now until he can find a way to make an escape. Cool. You may steady your arms. I will go without a struggle. Your decision is a wise one, yet perhaps you would have been better off had you forced death. The soldier's mouth wrinkled to a sadistic grin of knowing mirth as he brought his prisoner on the width of his sword point. After an indiscriminate period of marching through slicking alleyways and dim moonlighted streets, the procession confronted a massive seraglio, the palace area surrounded by iron gating, lush garden upon all sides. The group was admitted through the gilded gateway, and Grignir was led along a stone pathway bordered by plush vegetation, lustfully enhanced by the moon's shimmering rays. Upon reaching the palace, the group was granted entrance, and after several minutes of explanation, led through several winding corridors, a richly draped chamber. Confronting the group was a short, stocky man seated upon a golden throne. Tapestries of richly draped regal blue silk covered all the walls of the chamber, while the steeps leading to the throne were flaked with sparkling white ivory. The man upon the throne had a naked wench seated at each side of his arms, and a trusted advisor seated in the back of him. As each corner of the chamber, a guard stood at attention, with upraised pikes supported in their hands. Golden chainmail adorned their torsos, and barred helmets, emitting scarlet plumes their heads. Man rose to the throne to dais surrounding it. His plush turquoise robe dangled loosely from his chunky frame. The soldiers surrounding Grignir fell to their knees, with heads bowed to the stone masonry of the floor, in tearful dignity to their sovereign liege. Explain the purpose of this intrusion upon my chateau. Your serenity, splendid and noble grandeur, we have brought this yokel before you, the soldiers gestured toward Grignir, for the redress of your all-knowing wisdom and judgment regarding his fate. Down on your knees, lout, and pay proper homage to your sovereign, commanded the pudgy noble of Grignir. By the surly beard of Merifk, Grignir kneels to no man? Scowled the massive barbarian. You dare to deal this blasphemous act to me? You are indeed brave, stranger, yet your valor smacks of foolishness. Found you to be the only fool, sitting upon your pompous throne, enhancing the rolling flabs of your belly in the midst of your elaborate Luxiardan. Soldier standing at Grignir's face smote him heavily in the face with the flat of his sword, cutting short the harsh words and knocking his battered helmet to the masonry with an echoing clang. The paunchy noble's sagging round face flushed suddenly pale, then pastily lit up to a luscious cherry-red radiance. His lips trembled with malicious rage while emitting a muffled, sibilant gibberish. His sagging flabs rolled like a tub of upset jelly, compressed as he sucked in his gut in an attempt to conceal his softness. Jeez. Prince regained his stature and spoke to the soldier surrounding Grignir, his face confronting to an ugly expression of sadistic humor. Take this uncouth thief into the vault of misery, and be sure that his agonies are long and drawn out before death can release him. As you wish, sire. Your command shall be heeded immediately, answering the soldier on the right of Grignir, as stared into the barbarian's seamlessly unaffected face. The advisor seated in the back of the noble's slowly rose and advanced to the side of the master, motioning the wenches seated at his sides to remove themselves. He lowered his head and whispered to the noble. Eminence, the punishment you have decreed will cause much misery to this scum, yet it will only last a short time, then release him to a land beyond the sufferings of the human body. Why not mellow him into one of the subterranean vaults for a few days, then send him to a life labor in one of your buried mines? To one such as he, a life spent in the confinement of the stinging pits would be an infinitely more appropriate and lasting torture. Noble cupped his drooping double chin in folds of his brimming palm, meditating for a moment upon the rationality of his counselor's words. Then raised his shaggy eyebrows and turned around the eyes aglow. As always, Agathon, you speak with great wisdom. Your words ring of great knowledge concerning the nature of one such as he, saith the king. Noble turned towards the prisoner with the noticeable shimmer reflecting in the frog-like eyes, as his lips confronted to a greasy grin. I have decided to void my previous decree. The prisoner shall be removed to the palace's underground vaults. There I shall stay until I have decided he has been sufficiently slimmed, whereupon he will be allowed to spend the remainder of his days at labor in one of my mines. Oh, the horror. Upon hearing this, Grignard realized that his fate would be far less merciful than death to one such as he, who was used to roaming the countryside at will. Life of confinement would be more than his body and mind could stand up to. The type of life would be immeasurably worse than death. I shall never understand the ways of your twisted civilization. I simply defend my honor, and I am condemned to a life of confinement by a pig who sits on his royal ass wooing whores and knows nothing of the affairs of the land that he imagines to rule, lectures Grignard. Once again, we have it's closed brackets, lectures Grignard. Beautiful. Truly an artistic masterpiece from Jim Theus. Jim Theus, please write my biography when I die. I actually don't know if Jim Theus is even alive. This was the 70s. I hope he is. He's a legend. He's amazing. I love him. He's my senpai. Well, let's see. He was only 16, so he'd be in his 60s, sure. Okay. Enough of this. Oh, is this away with this slut before I lose my control? That's twice now. Grignard has been called a slut. Am I not picturing the right thing in my head? Does he just like look slutty? I'm trying to picture like a barbarian, but apparently he looks like a slut. Seeing the peril of his position, Grignard searched for an opening. Crushing prudence to the sword, he plowed into the soldier at his left, taking hold of his sword and bounding to the dais. Bounding to the dais, sporting the prince before startled guards could regain their composure. Affington leapt Grignard and his sire, but found a sword blade permeating the length of his ribs before he could loose his weapons. The counselor slumped to his knees as Grignard slid his crimson blade from Affington's rib cage. The fat prince stood undulting in unsurmounting fear before the edge of the fiery-maned comet, his flabs of jelly blubber pulsating to and fro in ripples of flowing terror. "Where is the wisdom and power now, your majesty?" growled Grignard. The prince went rigid as Grignard gesticulated in it. Grignard discerned him glazing over his shoulder. He swiveled to note the cause of the noble's attention, raised his sword over his shoulder, and prepared to unleash a vicious downward cleft, but fell short as the hilt of a steel-rimmed pike clashing against his unguarded skull. The blackness and solitude, silence enshrouding an ever peaceful reign supreme. Before me, Sierra. Before me is always ha 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 ha. Nobody cackled. Eh? That's fun. Thoughts so far? Okay. So, in case you haven't figured it out, he has been captured for killing some random guy at a bar, and then now he's gonna be like sent to to like life in labor. Well, not like not in labor, but like performing hard labor, and he just got knocked out. That's it. That's all that's happened so far. Okay. Consciousness, weird as fuck. It's interesting for sure. Consciousness returned to Grignir in the stigmatic pools as his mind gradually cleared of the cobwebs cluttering its inner recesses. Yet the Stygian cloud of charcoal ebony remained, an incomplete shield of blackness, encased by the bleak absence of sound. Grignir's muffled brain reeled from the shock of the blow as he had received the base of his skull. Events leading to his predicament were slow to filter back to him. He tinkered with the notion that he was dead. He had descended, or sunk, however it may be, to the shadowed lands beyond the aperture of the grave. But rejected this hypothesis when his memory shifted back within his grips. This was not the land of the dead. It was something infinitely more precarious than anything the grave could offer. Death promised an infinity of peace, not the finite misery of an inactive life, confined torture, forever concealed from the life-beating shafts of the beloved rising sun. The orb that had been before taken for granted, yet now cherished above all else, to be forever refused further glimpses of the snow-capped summits of the land of his birth, never again to witness the thrill of plundering unexplored lands beyond the crest of the fleeting horizon. Perhaps worst of all, the Nile to ever again accompany us the lustful excitement of caressing the naked curves of the body with a trim young one. Throw that into. So, what we know about Grignir? He fucks. And he really likes to kill shit. But mostly he fucks. Okay. This was indeed one of the buried chasms of hell concealed in the inner depths of the palace's interior. Fearful ebony chamber derived to drive to the brinks of insanity the minds of the unfortunately condemned. Through the inapt solitude of a limbo, blissful dreary silence. Chapter 3.5. Tightly rung elliptical circle of torches cast their wavering shadows, prancing morbidly over the smooth surfaces of a rectangular, rigid altar. Expertly chiseled forms of grotesque gargoyles grace the oblique rim protuberating the length of the grim office of death, staying forever ahead in the nothingness and complete ignorance of the bloody rites enhanced in their presence. Oh, God. Brown flacking stains decorated the golden surface of the ridge surrounding the altar, which which banked to a small slit at the lower right-hand corner of the altar. Slit stood above a crudely pounded pail which had several silver mesh chalices hanging at its sides, dangling at the rims of golden mallet, handle of which was engraved with images of twisted faces and groved at its far end with slots designated for a snug hand grip. What are you talking about? This is like an altar. I get that, but he's trying to describe it. I can't picture it in my head. It stood above a crudely... Okay. Expertly chiseled forms of grotesque gargoyles grace the oblique rim, protruding the length of the grim orifice of death. Standing forever ahead into nothingness in complete ignorance of the bloodied rites enacted in their presence. Brown flaking stains decorated the golden surface of the ridge surrounding the altar, which banked to a small slit at the lower right-hand corner of the altar. The slit stood above a crudely pounded pail, which had several silver mesh chalices hanging at its side. Dangling at the rim of golden mallet, the handle of which was engraved with images of twisted faces and groved at its far end with slots designated for a snug hand grip. The head of the mallet was slightly larger than a clenched fist and shaped into a smooth oval mass. Yeah, no, that didn't help at all. Circling the marble altar was a congregation of leering shamen? Shaman. Like shaman. Like a shaman. Like a shaman, but like shaman. Like a shaman, but multiple. Like shaman. Shaman. So it was a congregation of leering shamen. Eerie chants of a bygone age, orienting unknown eons before the memory of man, were being uttered from the buried. I just can't get over shaman! Fuck! I'm like pretty positive. It's just shaman. Like the plural is also just shaman. Hoi oi oi. Okay. God, I love these streams. Eerie chants of bygone age, orienting unknown eons before the memory of man, were being uttered from the buried recesses of the Yeah, he immediately does this shit again. Eerie chants of a bygone age, orienting unknown eons before the memory of man, were being uttered from the buried recesses of the acolytes' deep lings. Orange paint was smeared in generous globules over the tops of priests' wrinkled, shaven scalps, while golden rings projected from the lobes of their pink ears. Ornate robes of luciole purple satin enclosed their bulging torsos. Attached around their waist was silvered silk lashes laced with ebony buckles in the shape of orso misshapen skulls. Dangling around their necks were oval-fashioned medallions held by thin gold chains, featuring in their centers blood-red rubies which resembled crimson fetish eyeballs. Okay. Cushioning their bare feet were plush red felt slippers, which pointed golden spikes projecting from their tips. I'm immediately so confused. Sounds like if the Saurus was blended, then dumped onto a perfectly good store. Well, I'm telling you right now, from what I'm gathering, this isn't very good. So, but he's literally just describing what the fuck I'm not kidding. He's describing what the like shamen are wearing. That's it. Situated in front of the altar and directly adjacent to the copper pail was... Wait, copper pail? I thought it was silver. What the fuck ever? Sounds like I'd write it in middle school, to be honest. I mean, he was in high school. He's 16, so he could have been in... Maybe he was, that's like going into like... That's like 8th grade, right? He could have been in middle school, maybe. I think he was like, No, you're in high school. You're in high school in 16, for sure. 17, 18. Yeah. Yeah, you start... I think you start when you're 15, so... Yeah, okay, yeah, that's junior year, right, okay. Sorry, I'm fucking old, it's been a while. Either way, situated in front of the altar and directly adjacent to the copper pail was a massive jade idol, a misshapen, hideous bust of the SHAMEN's pagan deity. The shimmering green idol was placed in a sitting position on an ornately carved gold throne raised upon a round, ivory-plated dais, its bulging arms and webbed hands resting on the padded arms of the seat. Its head was entwined in gold snake-like coils hanging above its oblong ears, which tapered off to thin, hollow points. Its nose was a bulging triangle mass sunken into its sides with toe-gaping nostrils. Dramatic beneath the nostrils was a twisted, shaggy-lipped mouth, giving the impression of a slavering, sadistic grimace. At the foot of the heathen deity, a slender, pale-faced woman, naked but for a golden-jeweled harness, enshrouding her huge, outcropping breasts, sporting long silver laces which extended to her thighs, stood before the pearl-white field with noticeable shivers traveling up and down the lengths of her exquisite molded body. Okay. Her delicate lips trembled beneath soft sorrow hands as she... Hey, thank you for the follow. As she attempted to conceal herself from the piercing state of the ambient... what? Ambivalent? Idol? Whatever. Glaring directly towards her was the stony, cycloptic face of the bloated deity. Gaping from its single oblong socket was scintillating many-faceted scarlet emerald, a brilliant gem seeming to possess all life. Oh my god. Sorry, this book is killing me. I'm dying. Oh, knowing. Glancing directly towards her was the stony, cycloptic face of the bloated deity. Gaping from its single oblong socket was... fuck that. Many-faceted scarlet... Oh my god. Dude, I don't even know what you are talking about. Brilliant gem, seeming to possess a life all of its own. A priceless, gleaming stone capable of domineering the wealth of conquering empires. The Eye of Argon. Eat your heart out, George R. Martin. Fuck you. Yeah. That's great. I love this. My favorite part so far has been the SHAMEN. Not like the shaman, like the SHAMEN. Okay. There we go. All knowledge of measuring time has escaped Grignir. When a person is depraved of the sun, moon, and the stars, he loses all conception of time as he had previously understood it. It seemed as if years had passed and time were being measured by terms of misery and mental anguish. Yet he estimated that his stay had only been a few days in length. He had slept 3 times and had been fed 5 times since awakening in the crypt. However, when the actions of his body are restricted, its needs are also affected. The need for nourishment and slumber are directly proportional to the functions of the body has performed, meaning that when free and active, Grignir may become hungry every 6 hours or witness the desire for sleep every 15 hours. whereas in his present condition, he may encounter the need for food every 10 hours, and the one for rest every 20 hours. All methods he had before depended upon were extinct in the dismal pit. Hence, he had been in prison for 10 minutes or 10 years. He did not know, resulting in a disheartened emotion deep within his being. The food. You can honor the moldering lumps of fetid mush to that extent. Was borne to him by 2 guards who opened a portal at the top of his enclosure and shoved it to him in wooden bowls, retrieving the food as the water bowels from his previous meals at the same time. After which they threw back the bolts of the iron latch and returned them to their other duties. Desperate of all other means of nourishment, Grignir had pleaded to eat the tainted slop in order to ward off the painings of starvation. Though as he slumped through its mouth with his filthy fingers, struggled to force down its throat, he imagined it was that which he had been spurned by the hound stationed at various segments of the palace. What? Here we go again. What? He imagined it was which had been spurned by the hound stationed at various segments of the palace. So, like, what? He was thinking it was like he imagined it's like dog shit. I don't understand you, Jim. Damn you! Your use of the thesaurus is beyond human grasp. And even owl grasp, it seems. Oy, oy, oy. Okay. There was little in the barren vault that could occupy his mind or body. He had paced out the length and width of the enclosure time and time again, and tested every granite slab of which contested the walls of his prison in hopes of finding a hidden passage to freedom. All of which was to no avail other than to keep him busy and distract his mind from the wandering two thoughts that he had believed was his future. He had memorized a number of strides from one end to the other of the cell, and knew the exact number of slabs which made up the bleak dungeon. Numerous schemes were introduced and alternately discarded in turn, as they succored to unveil him no means of escape which stood the slightest chance of success. Anguish continued to mount as his means of occupation were rapidly exhausted. Suddenly, no time, he washed from his contemplations as he detected a faint scratching sound at the end of the crypt opposite him. The sound seemed to be caused by something trying to scrape away the granite bricks to the floor of the enclosure consisted of sandy scratching of something like an animal's claw. It's just gonna move on. Grigners gradually groped his way to the other end of the vault, carefully feeling his way along with his hands ahead of him. When a few inches of the wall, a loud, penetrating squeal scampered up small padded feet, reverberated from the walls of his highly hewn chamber. Grignir threw his hands up to shield his face and flung himself backwards onto his buttocks. Fuzzy form bound to his hairy chest, bearing its talons in the flesh, while gnashing his throat with its grinding white teeth. Its sour-fetid breath scorching squirming barbarians' dilated nostrils. Grignir gripped with the lashing flexor muscles of the repugnant body of a gargantuan brown-hided rat, striving to hold its razor teeth from his juicy jugular as its beady green organs of sight glazed into the flaring emeralds of its... Yes! Grignir grappled with the lashing flexor muscles of the repugnant body of a gargantuan, brown-hided rat, striving to hold its razor teeth from his juicy jugular as his beady, gray organs of sight glazed into the flaring emeralds of its prey. There are no words. Okay. Taking hold of the rodent around its lean, growing stomach with both hands, Grignir prayed it from his crimson-rent breast, removing small patches of flared flesh from his chest in the motion between the squalid black claws of the starving beast. Holding the rodent at arm's length, he cupped his right hand over its frothing face, constricting his fingers into a vice-like fist over the quivering head. Straining his grip on the rat, Grignir flexed his outstretched arms while slowly twisting the right hand clockwise and the left hand counterclockwise motion. The rodent let out a tortured squeal, drawing scarlet as it dug deep in its form-flecked fangs into the barbarian's sweaty palm, causing his face to contort to an ugly grimace as he cursed beneath his breath. The loud crack, the rodent's head parted from its squirming torso, sending out a sprinkling shower of crimson gore, trailing a slimy string of disjointed vertebra, snapped trachea, esophagus, and jugular disjointed hyoid bone, morose, stretched hide, and blood-seared muscles. Why? You could have just said he ripped its head off. You could have just said he ripped its head off. Holy shit, are we about to... What the fuck is going on? Are we about to call the Avengers? I think the no copyright thing was to fuck with us. I think we're trying... I think they're trying to get us copyright struck by Marvel. Listen, if they don't add Grignir to the fucking Avengers, I will riot, okay? We need his vocabulary to flesh out the team. I mean, there's room now, right? Okay. Flinging the broken body to the floor, Grignir shook his blood-streaked hands and wiped them away his thigh until dry, then wiped the blood that had showered his face from his eyes. Again, sitting himself upon the jagged floor, he prepared to once more revamp his glum meditations. He told himself that as long as he still breathed the gust of life through his lungs, hope was not lost. He told himself this. Found hard to comprehend in his gloomy surroundings. Yet he was still alive, his bulging sinews at their peak of marvel, his struggling mind floating in a mirror of impressed excellence of thought. Plot after plot sifted through his mind, and energetic contemplations. Then it hit him. Minutes may have passed in the silent thought. Or days, could not tell, but somewhat lost across the plan that he considered as holding a slight margin of possibility. He might die in the attempt, but he knew he could not submit without a final bloody struggle. What the fuck is wrong with me now? He might die in the attempt, but he knew he would not submit without a final bloody struggle. And it was not a foolproof plan. It had built up a store of renewed vortex energy in his overwrought soul. Though he might perish in the execution of its escape, he was still be escaping the life of infinite torture it sought for him. Either he would still cheat the gloating prince of the scored revenge his statistic mind craved so dearly. Guards would soon come to bear him off to the prince's buried mines of dread, giving him the sought opportunity to execute his nearly fermented plan. Groping his ways around the rough floor, Grignir found his tool in a pool of congealed gore, the carcass of the decapitated rat, the tool that the very filth had been sentenced to. Tool that the very filth he had been sentenced to spawned. Okay, let me reverse that. The carcass of the decapitated rat, the tool that the very filth he had been sentenced to spawned. When the time came for the action, he would be prepared. So he set himself to rendering the sickly hulk in grim silence, searching by the torch for his fingertips, for the lever to freedom. We are already up to chapter 5. Speeding right along. Where's the bit we're gonna have to Careful. Careful. Sorry, I'm just checking something. Ah! Chapter 7 after all. Or 6? 6, got it. Up to the altar and be done with it, wench, ordering a fidgeting shaman as he gave the female a grim stare accompanied by the wrinkling of his lips to a mirthful grin of delight. The girl bursts into a slow, steady whimper, stooping shakily to her knees and clinging woefully from the priest with both arms, wound snake-like around the bulging jade shrine rising before her scantily attired figure. Her face was readily plain from the salty flow of tears running from her glassy, dilated eyeballs. At least he said eyeballs. That's close. Just saying eyes. With short, heavy footfalls, the priest approached the female. His piercing stare never wavered from his quavering young countenance. Halting before the terrified girl, he projected his arm outward and motioned her to rise with an upward movement of his hand. The girl's whimpering increased slightly as she sunk closer to the floor rather than arising. Flickering torches outlined her trim build with a weird ornate glow as it cast a ghostly shadow dancing in horrid waves of splendor over smoothly worn whitenesses of marble-hewn altar. The shaman's lip curled back further, exposing a set of blackened, detaining molars, which transformed his slovenly grin into a wide, greasy arc of sadistic mirth, and alternately interposed into a female, a strong sensation of stomach-curdling nausea. Have it as you will, female, gloated the enhanced priest as he bent over his waist, projecting his ape-like arms forward, and clasped the female's slender arms with his hairy round fist. With the inward surge of his biceps, he harshly jerked the trembling girl to his feet and smoldered her salty wet cheeks with the jolty touch of his decrepit dull red lips. The vile stench of the shaman's hot fetid breath came over the nauseated female with this deep soul-searing sickness, causing her to wrench her head back and regurgitate a slimy orange-white stream of swelling gore over the richly woven robe of the entrusted acolyte. The priest's lips trembles with a malice rage as he removed his collar swabs from the girl's arms and replaced them tightly around her undarling neck, shaking her violently to and fro. The girl gasped, a torture groaned from her clamped lungs, her sea blue eyes bulging. Hey, he did it! My man! Bulged from her damn sockets, cocking her right back forwards. Cocking her right foot backwards, she leaned desperately outwards from the stench of a demon possessed, lodging her sane foot squarely between the shaman's testicles. The startled priest revealed his crushing grip, crumpled his body over it at the waist, overlooking his recessed belly, wide open, a deep chasm. His face flushed to a rose-red shade of crimson, eyelids slurred wide from his eyeballs protruding blindly outwards from the sockets to the outmost perimeters, while his lips quivered wildly about, allowing an agonizing wail to gush forth as his breath billowed from burning lungs. His hands reached out, clutching his urinary gland as his knees swung rapidly for a few seconds, then buckled, causing the ruptured shaman to collapse in an egg-hurdled mass into the granite pavement, rolling helplessly about in agony. You could just... He got kicked in the balls, and he fell down. I'm starting to realize that maybe the entire reason that this is written like this is because it would have been so short if he didn't. It'd be like one chapter. Because everything needs a paragraph of explanation for the most simplest things. The pathetic screeches of the shaman groveled in dejected misery upon the hand-hewn granite-laid pavement, worn smooth by countless hours of atrocious sweat and toil. Welter of ichor oozing through his clenched hands attracted the pureed attention of his comrades from their foetid ululations. The actions of this rebellious wench bespoke the credence of an unheard of sacrilege. Never before in the lost maze of old and told eons had a chosen one dared to demonstrate such blasphemy in the face of the cult idol's deity. Oh God, no. Blasphemy and whatnot. The girl cowered in unreasoning terror, helpless in the face of the emblazoned acolyte's rage, her orchid tousled face smoldering betwixt her bulging bosom as she shut her curled lash tightly upon to open them and find herself awakening from a morbid nightmare. Yet the hand of destiny decreed her no such mercy. The agonized pack of leering shaman converging. Wait. The agonizing pack of leering shaman. So wait, he was right this time. Going tensely over the prostitute's form, were entangled all too heavily in this grim web of reality. Okay. Shuddering from the clammy torch of the shaman, as they grappled with her supple form, hands wrenching all slender arms and legs in all directions, bare body being molested in the midst of the labyrinth of orange sponges, purpled satin, mangled skull shed an eerie crimson glow. Her confused head reared, then collapsed in a mist of enshrouding ebony as she lapsed beneath the protective sheet of unconsciousness to a land peach and resign. Oh! Sorry, I started reading ahead of it, and you're like this. Take hold of this rope, said the first soldier, and climb out from the pit, you slut. Your presence is required in another far deeper hellhole. We got 3 times. 3 times he's been called a slut by 3 different people. Something is wrong with Greg Neer, alright? He looks some kind of way. No other way around it. Okay? 3 people have called him a slut. Does he just walk around like shaking his ass and like, I don't know. But again, that is the 3rd time. Gregner slipped his right hand to his thigh, seeing a small, opaque object beneath the folds of his G-string wrapped around his waist. No, okay, no. He's definitely a slut. Brian Wells swallowed in Gregner's cold, jaded, squinting eyes, which grown accustomed to the gloom of the Sigarian pools of ebony engulfing him, which bedazzled and blinked by flickering radiance cast forth by a second soldier's resin torch. Tightly gripped in the second soldier's right hand, the instrument torch was a large double-edged axe, a long leather-wound oaken handle transfixing the center of the weapon's iron head. Adorning the torso of both of the sentries were thin yet sturdy hauberks, breastplates of which were worn by tightly hemmed twines of reinforced silver braiding. Cupping the soldiers' feet were thick leather sandals, worn about their shins, 2 ankles below their knees. Wrapped about their waists were wide satin girdles and slender blade poniards dangling loosely from them, hilts of which featured scarlet-encrusted gems resting upon the manes of their heads. Reaching midway to the brows were smooth copper morions. It's just getting... Okay, spiraling the lower portion of the helmet were short, upcurved silver spikes, while golden humps spiraled from the top of each bassinet. Beneath their chins, wound around their neck, and draped their clad shoulders, dangled regal purple satin cloaks, flowed midway to the soldiers' feet. Hand over hand, feet braced against the dank walls of the enclosure. Huge Gregnair ascended form from the moldering depths of the forlorn abyss. His swelled limbs stiff due to the boredom of a time Timeless inaccuracy. Timeless inaccuracy. His swelled limbs stiff due to the boredom of timeless inactivity, compounded by a musty atmosphere and jagged granite protruding against his body, cracked for action. The opportunity now presented itself, served the purposes of oiling his rusty joints, anointing his dulled senses. We're all going to take a break soon. I'm kind of running out of steam. He braced himself facing the second soldier. Sentry stature was wildly exaggerated in the glare of the flickering crescent cup in his right fist. His eyes were wide open and slightly slain owlish glaze. Owlish? Enhanced in the sinister intensity by the hawk-bill curve of the nose and pale yellow peak of his cheeks. Oy. Place your hands below your back, said the second soldier, as he raised his axe over the right shoulder, cast it into a lance. You must bind your wrists to parry any attempts at escape. Be sure to make the knot a stout one, Bjorg. We wouldn't want our guests to take leave of our guidance. Bjorg grasped Grignir's left wrist and reached for the barbarian's right wrist. Grignir wrenched his right arm free and swiveled it to face Bjorg. Reaching behind his loincloth with his right hand, the sentry grappled at his girdle for the sheathed dagger. Recoiled short of the intestines as Grignir's right arm swept to his gorge. Okay. The soldier went limp, his bowing eyes rolling beneath fluttering eyelids, a deep welt across his spurting gullet. Without lingering to observe the result of his efforts, Grignir dropped to his knees. The second soldier's axe clipped over Grignir's head. Blaze of silvered ferocity, severing several scarlet locks from his scalp. Coming to rest in the fellow's stomach, the iron head crashing through mail, flesh, splintering force, spilling a pool of crimson entrails over the granite pavement. What just happened? Did he just... Oh my god. Before the sentry could wrench his axe free from his comrade's carcass, he found Grignir's massive hands clasped around his throat, choking the life from his clampered lungs. With a zealous grunt, the accordion flexed his tightly corded biceps, forcing the grim-faced soldier to one knee. The sentry plunged his right fist into Grignir's face, digging his grimly nails in the barbarian's flesh, ejaculating a curse through rasping teeth. Grignir surged the bulk of his weight forward, fouling the besieged soldier upon his back. Sentry's arms collapsed to his thigh, shuddering convulsively. Bulging eyes stared blindly from a bloated cherry-red face. Getting hard. Music has stopped too. I probably should. This is the longest chapter. So I'll probably get through this, and then we'll probably take that. Start it. Rising to his feet, Grignir shook the blood from his eye. Shook the blood from his eyes. Ruffling his surly red mane as a brush fire swaying to the midnight breeze, steeping over the sprawled corpse of the first soldier. Grignir retrieved a small white object from a pool of congealed gore. Snorting a gusty blow of mirth, he once more concealed the tiny object beneath his loincloths, the tenaciously honed pelvis bone of the broken rodent. Turning his attention towards the second soldier, Grignir turned the task of tearing his limbs. To move about freely from the dim recesses of the castle, he would require the grotesque garb of a soldier. But he's like giant, isn't he? Was this supposed to be the rat? Whatever. Utilizing the silence and stealth acquired in the untamed climes of his childhood, Grignir slid through the twisting corridors and winding stairways, lighting his way through with the confiscated torch of his dispatched guardian. Knowing where his steps were leading to, Grignir meandered aimlessly in search of the exit from the chateau's dim confines. Wild blood coursing through his veins yearned from the undefiled freedom of his limited wilderness lands. Coming upon a fork in the passage, he tracked, voices accompanying by clicking footfalls discerned to his sensitive ears from the left corridor. Wishing to avoid contact, Grignir veered to the right passageway. He acquiesced as to the purpose of his presence. His barbarous accent would reveal his identity, being that his attire was not that of the castle's mercenary troops. In grim silence, Grignir treaded down the dimly lit corridor, stalking the panther creeping warily on its padded feet. After an undeterminable period of wandering through the dull corridors, nor gaps or break the monotony of the cold gray walls, Grignir followed a small, winding stairway, descending the flights of arched granite slabs by the posterior. Grignir was confronted by a short hallway leading to a tall, arched wooden doorway. Okay. Here we go. Halting before the teeming portal, Grignir rests his shaggy head. Oh, now it's just getting like bad with the spelling errors and shit, and like the double words and. Oi, oi, oi. Okay. Detecting no sounds from within, he grasped the looped metal handle from the door, his arm surging with a tremendous effort of bulging muscles, yet the door would not budge. Retrieving his axe from where he had sheathed it beneath his girdle, he hefted it in the mighty hands with an appeased grunt, wedging one of its blackened edges into a crack beneath the portal and its iron-rimmed sill. Bracing his sandaled foot right against the roughly hewn wall, teeth tightly clenched, Grignir approvered the oaken halt, employing it as a lever whereby to pry open the barrier, the leather-wound hilt bending to its utmost limits of endurance. The massive portal swung open with a grating, snapped latch, and rusty iron hinges. Glancing about the dust-swirled room in this gloomy, dancing glare of his flickering cresset, Grignir eyed evidence of the enclosure before nothing more than a forgotten storeroom. Miscellaneous articles required for the maintenance of a castle were piled in disorganized heaps at infrequent intervals towards the wall opposite the barbarian's piercing stare. Utilizing long, boundless strides, Grignir paced his way over to the mounds of supplies to discover if any articles of value were contained within its midst. Detecting a faint clicking sound, Grignir sprawled to his left side, the speed of a striking cobra, landing harshly on his back, torch and axe loudly clamoring to the floor and morass of sparks and flame. Elm-woven board leapt from collapsing flooring, flashing against the jagged flooring and spewing a shower of orange and yellow sparks over Grignir's startled face. Rising uneasily to his feet, the half-stunned accordion glided down at the awesome arm of death he had unwittingly sprung. But Ferk. What was any of that, my man? Okay, so let's break this down. Detecting a faint clicking sound, Grignir sprawled to his left side with the speed of a striking cobra. So he dodged left, landing harshly upon his back, torch and axe loudly clanging to the floor, and a morass of sparks and flame. Okay. Elm-woven board leapt against the collapsed flooring, flashing against the jagged flooring and spewing a shower of orange and yellow sparks over Grignier's startled face. Okay. It was a trap. He basically just dodged a trap. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's press on. Not for his need, authority, if not for his need, authority organs, and lightning sealed reflexes, Grignir would have been groped throughout the shadowed hell pits of the Grim Reaper. Fuck me, just say he would have died! Yet unknowingly stumbled upon an ancient, long-forgotten booby trap, a mistake which would have stunted the perusal of longevity of one less agile. A mechanism similar in type of that of miniature catapult was concealed beneath the two collapsible sections of granite flooring. The arm of the device was 4 feet long, boasting razor-like crest at regular intervals. Along its face, which it was to be skewer the luckless body of its would-be victim. Grignir had stepped upon a concealed catch, which released a small metal latch beneath the two granite sections, causing them to fall inward, and thereby loose the spiked arm of death that had precariously held it. My man! Jim Theus just killing it out here. Partially out of curiosity and partially out of an inordinate fear of becoming a pincushion for a possible second trap, Grignir plunged his torch into the exposed gap of the floor. The floor of a second chamber stood out 7 feet below the glare. Tossing his torch through the aperture, Grignir grasped the side of a joining tile, dropping down. Glancing around the room, Grignir discovered that he had descended into the palace's mausoleum. Rectangular stone crypts cluttered the floor at evenly placed intervals. The top of the enclosures were placed with thick layers of virgin gold, while the sides were placed with white ivory. One time sparkling, now growing dignity through the passage of the rays of alien commenting Mother Time. All-encompassing. Okay, I read that as alien for some reason. I think this book is killing me. I think this book is literally making me illiterate. Now grown dignity through the passage of the rays of all-encompassing Mother Time, featured at the head of each sarcophagus in tarnished silver with an expensively carved likeness of its rotting inhabitant. Okay, I got it. Virgin gold. What about Chad gold, huh? That's what I want. A dingy atmosphere pervaded the air of the chamber, which sealed in the enclosure for an unknown period. Baka! The atmosphere preserved the air of the chamber, which sealed in the enclosure for an unknown period had grown thick and stale. Intermingling with the curdled currents was the repugnant stench of slowly moldering flesh, creeping ever slowly but surely through the minute cracks and the numerous faults. Due to the embalming of the bodies, flesh decayed at a much slower rate than normal, yet the nauseous odor was none the less repellent. Towering over Grignir's head was the trap he released. The mechanism of the miniaturized catapult was clutched with mildew and cobwebs. Notwithstanding these relics of antiquity, its efficiency remained unimpeded. To the right of the trap wound a short stairway through a recess in the ceiling, a concealed entrance leading to the mausoleum of which the catapult had obviously been erected as a silent, restless guardian. Climbing up the side of the device, Grignir set to the task of resetting its mechanism. In the event that a search was organized, it would prove well to leave no evidence of its presence upon open to wandering eyes. Besides, it might even serve to dwindle the size of an opposing force. Descending from his perch, Grignir was startled by a faintly muffled scream of horrified desperation. His hair pricked yawkishly in disorganized clumps along his scalp as a cold danced along the length of his spinal cord. No moral/mortal barrier, human or otherwise, was capable of arousing the numbing sensation of fear within Grignir's smoldering soul. However, he was overwrought by the force of the barbarian's instinctive fear of the supernatural. His mighty thews have served to adequately conquer any tangible foe. The intangible was something distant and terrible. Dim, horrifying tales passed by word of mouth over glimmering campfires and skins of wine, and more than once served the purpose of chilling the marrow cords of his sturdy, limbered bones. Yet the scream contained a strangely human quality, like that which Grignir imagined would come from the lungs of a demon or spirit, making Grignir take short, nervous strides, advancing to the sarcophagus from which the sound was issuing. Clenching his teeth in an attempt to steel his jangled nerves, Grignir slid the engraved slab from the vault with a sharp rasp of grinding stone. Another long, dry cry from terror-infested anguish met the barbarian, scoring like the shrill piping of a demented banshee, piercing the inner fibers of his superstitious brain with permanent dread, and awe. Stooping over to espy the tomb's contents, the glittering accordion's nostrils were singed by the scoring aroma of a moldering corpse, long shut and fermenting, the same putrid scent which permeated the entire chamber, through multiplied to a much more concentrated dosage. The shriveled, leathery packet of crumbling bones and dried, flaking flesh offered no resistance, but remained in a fixed position of perpetual vigilance, watching over its dim abode from hollow, gaping sockets. Torture cries were not coming from the tomb, but from something hidden deep below. Pulling the reeking corpse from its resting place, Grignir tossed it to the floor in a broken, mangled heap. On one side of the crypt's bottom was attached a series of tiny hinges, which run parallel along the opposite side of a corvex railing, like protrudence. Laid so it appears as part of the interior surface of the sarcophagus. Raising the slab upon its bronze hinges, long removed from a gaze of human eyes, Grignir perceived a scene which caused his blood to smolder, not unlike bubbling molten lava. Directly below him was a whimpering female, as stretched out upon a smooth-surfaced marble altar, packed of gracie-faced shaman. Clustered. Oh, he did it again. Wait, SHAMEN. Okay. So which one is right in Jim's mind? Clustered around her in a tight circle formation. Crouched over the girl was a tall, pot-bellied priest, his face dominated by a disgusting, open-mouthed grimace of sadistic glee. Dispensed from the acolyte's clenched right hand was a carven, oval-faced mallet, which he was menacingly over the girl's shadowed face, incoherent gibberish flowing from his grinning, thick-lipped mouth. In the face of Amorphous, face of the Amorphous? I've never heard this word before. Amorphous? Braiding. In the face of the fine-looking female, stretched out alluringly before his gaping eyes, the universal whim of nature filed a plea of despair inside his white-hot soul. Grignir acted in the only manner he could perceive, giving vent to a hoarse, threatening, renting battle cry. Grignir plunged into the midst of this startled shaman. No, I think that's what he means. Torch summoning a left hand, a twix, and an end axe twirling in his right hand. Okay. So many times this is just missing his face, and I love it. A gaunt skull-faced priest standing at the far side of the altar, clutched desperately at his throat, coughing furiously in an attempt to catch his breath. Lurching helplessly to and fro, the acolyte pitched headlong against the gleaming base of the massive jade idol, writhing agonizedly against the hideous image, foam flecking his chalk white lips. The priest struggled helplessly, the victim of an epileptic seizure. So he did it! Grignir didn't do anything! Grignir didn't do anything. He just scared the guy into a seizure. Okay, startled by the barbarian's stunning appearance, chronic fit, make it end. I might just try to power through the rest of it. We can just get it done. There isn't that much, I don't think. I think this is the longest chapter, and then there's 7. And then there's 7.5, and then there's Secret End, which is like not very long. I think this won't take that long. Okay. Startled by the barbarian's stunning appearance, the chronic fit of the fellow, and the fear that Grignir might be the avant-garde of conquering force dedicated to the cause of destroying their degenerated cult, the SHAMEN emotionally lost their composer. The SHAMEN. The SHAMEN. I don't know why I love it so much. So they lost their composure, giving vent to heedless pandemonium. The priest fell easy prey to Grignir's sweeping arc of crimson death, maiming destruction. The acolyte performing the sacrifice took a vicious blow to the stomach, hands clenching vital as a severed spinal cord as he sprawled over the altar. Dizor and his priest lurched and staggered with split skulls, dismembered limbs, spewing entrails before the enraged accordion's relentless onslaught. The howls of the maimed and dying reverberated against the walls of the tiny chamber. Chorus of hell brought despair as the granite floor ran red with blood. The entire chamber was encompassed in the heat of raw, savage butchery as Grignir's luxuriated in the grips of primitive, beastly bloodlust. Jeez. What the fuck is even going on? Presently all went silent, save for the ebony groans of the sinking shaman and Grignir's heaving breath accompanied by several gustly curses. Well had run dry. No more lambs remain for the slaughter. The rampaging set of death had taken of Grignir for the moment, left the barbarian free to explanations of his own perjuals. Towering over his head was the misshapen image of the cult's hideous deity, Argon. The fantastic size of the idol in consideration of it being of pure jade was enough to cause the senses of any man to stagger and reel. Thus, while not the case for the behemoth, he had paid only casual notice to the incredible fact, while riveting the whole of his attention upon the jewel protruding from the idol's soul socket. Its masterfully cut facets embedded blinding rays of hypnotizing beauty. After all, man cannot sink from a heavenly guarded palace, or burdened down by the intense bulk of a squatted statue, proving, of course, that the idol can even be hefted, which is, in fact, was beyond the reaches of Grignir's coursing stamina. On the other hand, the jewel, gigantic as it was, would not present a hindrance of any means of concern. Gotta be careful, we're playing with fire right now. Oh, wait. That's fine. But once we get to the bottom there, I'm gonna have to make it go. You can't see this picture because there's a really poorly drawn boob on it, and I don't want to get in any trouble. Okay. Help me, please. I can make it all worth your while, pleaded a soft, anguish-strewn voice, wafting over Grignir's shoulders as he plucked the dull red emerald from its roots. Turning, Grignir faced the female that had lured him into his bloodbath, who had become all but forgotten in the heat of battle. You ejaculated the accordion in a pleased tone. Oh, jeez. It's all. I guess that's all it takes. Grignir is quite the slut. I had seen the last of you in the tavern. Verily, I was mistaken. Tavern. Oh, is this the? I thought she was killed. I literally thought. You can never fucking tell. You can never fucking tell. Okay. Verily, I was mistaken. Grignir advanced in the grips of the female's entrancing stare, severing the golden chains that held her captive upon the altar's highly polished face of ornamental limestone. As Grignir lifted the girl from the altar, her arms would dexterously around his neck, soft and smooth against his harsh exterior. Art thou pleased, so we chance to meet once again? Grignir merely voiced a slight grunt, turning the damsel's embrace with. He smothered her trim, delicate lips between the coursing protrusions of its reeking maw. Hold on a second. Okay. Actually, no. Let's instead. I think that'll be fine right there. Yeah, you can't see the bad part. You can't see the bad part. Okay. I can though. Fuck you though. You just it's you can find it anywhere and like you're not missing anything. Let us take leave of this wretched chamber, stated Grignir as he placed the female upon his feet. She swooned a moment, causing Grignir to give her support, then regained her stance. Thou art able to find your way through the cursed passages of this castle. Every one of the corridors of this damned place are identical. Aye, I was at one time a slave of the Prince Agathim. His calamity touched on a sour swill through my belly, but my efforts reaped a harvest. I gained the pig's liking, whereby he allowed me freedom of the palace. It was through this means that I eventually managed to escape to the palace. Simple matter to seduce the sentry at the western gate. His trust found him with a dagger within his ribs. The wench stated whimsically, like, fuck off. Just fuck off. What are you doing at the tavern once I discovered you? Asked Grignir as he lifted the female through the opening of the mausoleum. I had sought to lay low from the palace guards as they conducted their search for me. The tavern was seldom frequented by the palace guards, and my identity was unknown to the common soldiers. It was throughout the disturbance that you caused that the palace guards were attracted to the tavern. I was dragged away shortly after you escorted to the palace. By what are you called, female? Carthiana, daughter of Minky Dink, Duke of Barbago, whose lands are bordered with the northern fringes of Gorzom. I was paid some homage to Agathim upon his 38th year. Husk the Femi. What? I was paid homage to Agathim upon his 38th year. Husk the Femi? And I am called a barbarian, grunted Grignir in a disgusted tone. Aye, the ways of our civilization are in many ways warped and distorted. But what is your calling? She queried lustily. Grignir of Accordia. I've heard vaguely of Accordia. It was a hill country the far east of the Nogorian Empire. I've also heard that Agathim cursed your land more than once with his troops surrounded into the unaccustomed mountains and gorges, saith she. Aye, my people are not tarnished by petty luxuries and babble. They remain fierce and unconsequential in their native claims. After reaching the hidden panel at the head of the stairway, Grignir was at a loss in regard to its operation. Its fiercest heaves were the pebbles against blourished armor. Catherine pressed a small symbol put within the elaborate design of the panel, whereupon it slowly slid the cleft open. How did you come to be the victim of those crazed shaman? Questioned Grignir as he escorted Athena. Call her like Katarina. It's Parthena. Fuck me, man. The piles of rummage on the left side of the trap. By Agathon's order, I was thrust into a secluded cell to await my passing of the sentence. By some means, the priest of Argon quitted a set of keys to the cell. They slew the guard placed on me and abducted me to the chamber in which you chanced upon the Sizodic sacrifice. Hellspawn cult demons to sacrifice once every 3 moons upon its full journey through the heavens. They were startled by your unannounced appearance through the fear that you had been sent by Agathon. The prince would surely have submitted them to more naturally of tortures, and if he had even discovered the unfaithfulness to Sargon, his bastard deity, many of the partakers of the ritual, high nobles and high trustees of the inner palace, Agathon's pitiless wrath would have been unparalleled. They have no more to fear of Agathon now, bellowed Grignard in a deep, mirthful tone. People smirk upon his face. I have seen that they have delivered from their vengeance. Grossed by Carthena's grateful stride. In conversation, Grignard failed to take note of footfalls rapidly approaching behind him. As he swung aside the arched portal leaking the chamber, which the corridor beyond, mad and bloodlusting screech reverberated from his eardrums. Seemingly utilized the speed of thought, Grignard swiveled to face his unknown foe. With gasping eyes and wide jaws, Grignard raised his axe above the surly mane, but he was too late. Alright, we're almost done, so we'll just do this. With wobbling knees and swimming head, the priest had lapsed into an epileptic seizure, rode unsteadily to his feet. Oh, I see. While enacting his choking fit and writhing agony, the shaman was overlooked by Grignard. Barbarian had mistaken the seizure for the death throes of an acolyte, allowing the priest to avoid his stinging blade. Sadly met with the priest's inflamed eyes, nearly served to sprawl upon the floor once more. Sacrificial sat in grim, blood-splattered silence all around him, broken only by the occasional yelps and howls of his maimed and butchered fellows. Above his head rose the hideous idol, empty socket holding the shaman's furbished, infuriated gaze. Jeez. His eyes turned a stony glaze with the realization of the pillage of blasphemy. Due to his high susceptibility following the seizure, the priest was transformed into a raving maniac bent solely upon wreaking vengeance. The lips curled and quivering, a crust of foam dripped from them. The acolyte drew a long, wicked-looking, jewel-hilted scimitar from his silver glad and fled through the aperture, ceiling, uttering a faint, perpetual ceremonial gibberish. Okay, so this one's actually pretty long. Okay. Well, yeah, we can still do this. I think I'll, we'll take a quick, we're sitting here break. I'm not leaving, I'm just, Any thoughts so far? Anybody have any interesting insights into Eye of Argon? This masterpiece of literature? Still very confusing. I mean, what's there to be confused about? Everything makes perfect sense to me. You're just stupid. Okay. A sweeping scimitar swung towards Grignard's head in a shadow blur of motion. With axe raised over his head, Grignard prepared to parry the blow, while gaping wide-eyed in open-mouthed perplexity. Suddenly, a sharp snap resonated between the frothing shaman. The scimitar, halfway through its fatal sweep, dropped from a quivering, nerveless hand. Shattering harmlessly to the stone edge, cutting his screech short with a bubbling red-mouthed gurgle. The lacerated acolyte staggered upon the presence of the released springboard. After a moment of hopeless struggling, the shaman buckled. Sprawling face down in a widening pool of blood and entrails, regal purple robe blending with the swirling streams of crimson. Murph! I thought I'd killed the last of those dogs, muttered Grignir in a half-apathetic state. Nay, Grignir, you doubtless grew careless while giving vent to your lust. Let us not tarry any longer, lest we overtax the fates. Goddamn taxes! Even hit the fates! Path leads to freedom and soon be barred. The wretch's cries must certainly have attracted unwanted attention, the wench must have. The wretch's cries must have certainly attracted unwanted attention. The wench must. But what direction shall we pursue our flight? Up the stairs and down the corridor, a short distance, and concealed entrance to a tunnel seldom used by others other than the prince, known by a few others save the palace's royalty. It's used mainly by the prince when he wishes to take leave of the palace in secret. It's not always in the prince's best interest to leave the chateau in public view, even when under heavily guarded. He is often assaulted by hurtling stones and rotting fruits. Commoners have little love for him. Lectured the nair lady. I still love that. Yeah. It is amazing they would ever have let a pig like him become their ruler. I should imagine people would rise up and crucify him like the dog he is. Alas, Grignir, it's not as simple as that. The soldiers are paid well by him. So long as he keeps their wages up, he will carry out his damned wishes. Crude implicence of the common folk would never stand up under an onslaught of forged blades and protective armor. They would be going by their own slaughter, said Carthena. I still can't handle her name, too confused but angry Grignir at the top of the stairway. Yet how can they bear to live under such oppression? I'd sooner die beneath the sword than live under such a dog's command. Added Grignir as the pair stalked down the hall in the direction opposite which Grignir had come. All men are not the same mold that are born of. They choose to live their lives. They choose to live as they are to save their flimsy necks from the chopping block. Turned Carthena. I'm just gonna call her Cat. In a disgusted tone in which she appeased glanced towards the stalwart figure at her side, whose left arm wound dexterously around her slim waist, while slowly running towards Cat's images. The intervening wisps dangled from his left hand. So he's the absolute fucking mad lad is got her around his arm while he's holding a fucking torch. And that picture up there was of her, so her fucking hair is long. He's just like, yeah. Why does he have to have her like that though? Why can't they just be walking down the hall? Alright. His left arm was around her slim waist. Yeah, his left arm, left hand. Presently, Cat came across the panel, concealed amongst the other granite slabs and distinguishable only by the burnt out crescent above it. So I put the crescent aside, pushed the panel inwards. Cat motioned to the panel she was referring to and twisted the crescent in a clockwise motion. Grignir braced his right shoulder against the railing, concentration the force of his bulk against it. The slab gradually swung inward with a slight grating sound. Cat snooped beneath Grignir's scorched arms, crawled upon all fours into the passage beyond. Grignir followed after easing the slab back into place. Winding before the pair was a dark, musty tunnel, exhibiting tangled spider webs from the ceiling to wall and an oozing, sickly slime running lazily down the floor. Hanging from the chipped walls was Grignir's right side was a half molded corpse, its gray flagging arms held in place by rusted iron manacles. Cat flinched back into Grignir's arm at the sight of the leering sun, the ugly, distorted grimace, staring horribly at her from hollowed, gaping sockets. This alcove must have been used by Agathim as a torture chamber. Wonder how many of his enemies have disappeared into these haunts, never to be heard from again. Pounding the hulking brute. Let us flee before we are caught within Agatham's ghastly clutches. Exit from the tunnel cannot be very far from here, said Kat. A slight sob of her voice. Stadge and Grignier's embrace. Aye, it will be best if we finish this corridor as soon as possible. Why do you flinch from the sight of death so, Rift? You have seen much death in this day throughout exhibiting such emotions, exclaimed Grignier. He fell trembling along the digging fence. The man hanging from the walls was Doyanta. He had committed the folly of showing affections for me in front of Agatham. Never meant any harm by his actions. His cat broke into a slow, steadying whimper, choking her voice with gasping sobs. There was never anything between us, and Agatham did this to him. The beast, may demons of hell's deepest haunts, claw at the wretched flesh for this merciless act, she prayed. I detect that you felt more for this fellow than you wish to let on. But enough of this. We can talk of such matters when we are once more free to do so. What does it matter, man? Fucking Grignier. With this, Grignier lifted the grieved female to his feet, strode onward towards the corridor, supporting the bulk of her weight with his surging left arm. Doing his best to not burn her with that fucking torch. Presently, a dim light was perpetually flicking into the tunnel, casting a reddish hue upon the moldy wall. The passage grim confides. Kat had ceased her whimpering and partially regained her composure. The tunnel's end must be nearing. Rays of sunlight are beginning to seep in. Grignier clambered right hand over Kat's mouth. The slight struggle pulled her over the shadows to the right hand of the wall. At the same time, thrusting the torch beneath an overhanging stone to smolder's flickering rays. Be silent. I can hear foot trails approaching through the tunnel, growled Grignier in a hushed tone. It's a good picture. I like it. All that you hear are those horses corralled at the far end of the tunnel. That is a further sign that we are nearing our goal, she stated. All that you hear is less than I hear. I heard footsteps coming towards us. Silence yourself and we find out whom we are being brought into contact with. I doubt any would have thought as you have searching this passage for us. The advantage of surprise will be on our side, Grignier warned. Kat cast her eyes downward and ceased any further pursuit towards conversation, irritating habit in which she had gained an amazing proficiency. Two figures came into the pair's view from around a turn in the tunnel. They were clothed in rich, luxuriant. They were clothed in rich, luxuriant. Fuck me, whatever. Silks and rambling on about the conversation while ignorant of their crouching foes waiting in an ambush ahead. That barbarian dog is cringing beneath the weight of the lash of the moment's sire. We shall cause no more disturbance. Apparently, Grignier's cringe. Aye, and so it was that who dares to cross the path of Sargon's chosen one, said the second man. But the peasants are showing signs of growing unrest. They complain about that they cannot feed their families, burdened by their taxes. Oh no, they can't feed their families. What does that mean? I shall teach these sluts the meaning of humility. Order an immediate increase upon taxes. They dare to question my sovereignty. Sovereign authority. Haha, it's just under an impression it can be. Hey, Oliver, thank you for the host. What's this when I move out force to my library? Oh, well, you see, this is my special library where we look at special things. And today we're looking at my favorite book. One of my favorite books, at least. The Eye of Argon. A thesaurus's best friend. Dare to question my sovereign authority? They shall soon learn what true oppression can be. I will. shadowy bulk leapt from beneath a jutted promontory as it brought down a double-edged axe, and the swoop of a striking. One of the nobles sagged lifelessness to the ground, skull split to the teeth. Gridmere gasped as he observed the bisected face set in the leering death agonies. It was Agafind, the dead man's comrade, having recovered from his shock, drew a jewel-encrusted dagger from beneath the folds of his robe, lunged towards Barbarian's back. Gridmere spun in the sounds from behind and smashed down his crimson axe once more. His antagonist lunged, howling to a scream of stagnant green water, grasping a sprouting stump that had once been a wrist. Ragnar raised his axe over his head, prepared to finish the incomplete job, but was deterred halfway through his lunge by a frenzied scream from behind. Cat leapt to the head of the writhing figure, plunging a smoldering torch in the agonized face. Howling increases as their horror intensifying, stifled by the sizzling of roasting flesh, and died down until the mass was reduced to a bubbling mass of squirming, insensate flesh. Jeez. If you can tell me what the fuck just happened, I would love to know as well. Welcome to the Eye of Argon. Gridmere advanced to Cat's side, wincing slightly around the putrid aroma of charred flesh that rose to a puff of thick white smog throughout the chamber. Cat reeled slightly, standing dazedly downward at the gruesome handiwork. I had to do it. It was Agathan. I had to, she exclaimed. Sargon would be more careful to his right-hand man, added Gridmere, a smudge grin upon his lips. But to hell with Sargon for now. The stench is becoming bothersome to me. With that, Gridmere clasped Cat's around the waist, leading her around the bend of the cave in the open. Why did he need to grab her waist again? Ball of feral red was rising through the mist of the eastern horizon, dispelling the sinking shadows of the night. A ball of feral red was rising through the mist of the eastern horizon. The fucking sun was rising! A coral stood before the pair, closing two grazing mares. Gridmere reached into a weighted down leather pouch, standing outside, and drew forth the red emerald he had obtained from the bloating idol. Raised toward the sun, he said, What shall we do with Babel, eh? Eh? Cat gasped at the gem, gasping in a terrifying manner. The Eye of Argon! Oh, Kala! At this, the gem gave off a blinding glow, dribbled through Gridmere's fingers in a slimy red ooze. Gridmere stepped back, pushing Cat behind him. The droplets of slime slowly converged into a pulsating jelly-like mass. A single opening transfixed the blob, forming a leech-like maw. Oh. Then the hideous transgressor of nature flowed through Gridmere, a trail of greenish slime lingering behind it. A single gap puckered faintly, emitting a ghastly sucking sound. Gridmere spread his legs into a battle stance. Man, he really is a slut. Nearing his quivering hooves into a battle royale with the thing he knew not how to fight. Cat wound his arms around him, protecting neck, mumbling, "Kill it! Kill!" while her entire body trembled. The thing was almost upon Gridmere when he buried his ass into its ghastly maw. It passed through the blob and clanged upon the ground. Gridmere drew his axe back in a film of yellowish-green slime clinging to the blade. The thing was seemingly unaffected, and it started to slooge up his leg. Slooze up his leg. Hairs upon his nape stood on end from the slimy feel of the thing's bully bulk. Nauseous sucking sound became louder, and Gridmere felt the blood being drawn from his body. Each hiss of hideous pucker, the thing increased in size. Gridmere shook his foot about madly and attempted to dislodge the blob. but it clung like a leech, still feeding upon his rapidly draining life fluid. He grasped on his hands, trying to rip it off, found only his hands engulfed in a sticky glue-like substance. The slimy thing continued its puckering, having grown the size of Grignir's legs for its vampiric feast. Grignir began to reel and stagger upon the blob, his chalk-white face and faltering muscles tested to the gigantic loss of blood. The cat slipped from Grignir in a death-like faint. Marrow-chilly scream upon her red, rubyish lips. Found desperation, Grignir grasped a smoldering torch upon the ground and plunged it into the reeking maw of travesty. A shudder passed through the thing. Grignir felt the blackness closing upon his eyes. Held on with the last ebb of rapidly waning vitality. He could feel the grip listening as the hideous gurgling sound erupted from the writhing maw. The jelly-like mass began to bubble like a vat of boiling tar as quivers passed up and down its entire form. End of available copy. From what I understand, when this originally was circulating, the end wasn't with it, and then later, Jim actually released another version with the end, which is what this is. So let's finish this up. We can talk about it for a while, and then I'll go. We'll raid someone today. I think today's a good raid day. With a sloshing plop, the thing fell to the ground, evaporating a thick scarlet cloud until it reattained its original size. It remained thus for a moment as the puckered maw took the shape of a protruding red eyeball, people of which seemed to unravel before it the tale of creation. How a shapeless mass slid from the quagmires of the stigmatic pool of time, only to degenerate into a leprosy of avaricious lust? In that fleeting moment, the grim mystery of life was revealed before Grignir's ensnailed gaze. The eyeball's glare turned to a sudden plea of mercy, plea for the whole of humanity. Then the blob began to quiver with violent convulsions. Eyeball splattered into 1,000 tiny fragments and evaporated into a curling wisp of scarlet mist. Very ground below the thing began to vibrate, swallow it up with a belch. The thing was gone forever. All that remained was a dark red blotch upon the face of the earth. Blotching things up, shaking his head, Shaggy made to clear the jumbled fragments of his mind. Grignir tossed the limp female to his shoulders, mounting one of the disgruntled males, and leading the other weary. Oh shit. Overwatch. Where's Overwatch is coming, everyone. Sorry. Tossed the limp female over his shoulder, mounting one of the disgruntled mares, and leading the other, the weary scanned barbarian trudged slowly off into the rise to become a tiny pinpoint. Filled the field of, leaving the noble shoulders and peasants to replace the missing monarch. Long live the king. Yeah, baby! Jim Theus is a fucking literary mastermind! We did it! We read all of the Eye of Argon in fucking 2 hours. That's world record pace. And we can close. Beautiful. Okay. That was fun. Any final note? Does anyone have any final thoughts on the Eye of Argon? I must say, I seriously love this book. I think it is a joy. Trying to understand what the hell even happens at pretty much any point in the story. It has to be broken down like It is a very confusing journey. But in the end, our boy Grignir reigns supreme. Okay. So yeah, let's raid somebody. That's what I think we should do. Who are we going to raid? Looks like the only person I'm currently following is Little S. He's very successful. He's a good boy with a lot of views. So maybe we find a new VTuber to raid. No one's got any suggestions. Three. Throw them out. Ah. Hey. Hey. Psst. Psst. Get. Jeez, I hate when they do this. Shit, I don't know. Is there any VTubers playing Guilty Gear? They getting it, baby. But let's see. They're getting this raid. I'm not seeing any of that. This guy's not even playing Strab. Some people playing XX Accent Core. Interesting. This is a VTuber. Kind of, I think we'll raid them. Why not? Hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna have to cut the audio. I'm gonna watch it for a little bit before I make this decision. No flirting in my chat. Okay. All right. Fucking let's give him a raid. Why not? Yeah, whatever. I mean, if he's kind of controversial, fucking whatever. Like that's, you know. All right, let's get this raid going. Thank you all for coming. See you tomorrow. Send some love. Okay, bye.